India has slammed the latest contentious and inflammatory comments made by Pakistan's army chief, General Asim Munir. While it is not atypical for Pakistan's general to obsess over Kashmir, this speech addressed to overseas Pakistanis, in fact, goes much further. It re-invokes the two-nation theory, talks about how Pakistanis are different from Hindus, and Samaa TV, Pakistan's leading TV channel, quotes Asim Munir as saying that Pakistan's people are both superior in ideology and culture. This has raised many eyebrows. Amid a growing Balochistan crisis that has weakened the Pakistan army, is the Pakistan army chief desperate to change headlines? I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. India has slammed an extremely inflammatory speech made by Pakistan's army chief Asim Munir. Munir seemed to be targeting overseas Pakistanis in his address, but the address went beyond the routine and usual obsession and fixation on Kashmir, which was once again described to be quote unquote a jugular vein for Islamabad. India, responding moments ago, has said that Jammu and Kashmir is a union territory of India, and the only relation to Pakistan is the fact that Pakistan occupied Kashmir belongs to India. But what is Munir up to? Why this speech? Well, Kashmir and is a stated position of the Pakistan army chief, much to, of course, the annoyance of India and Indians. Why is Asim Munir invoking suddenly or re-invoking the two-nation theory? Why is he talking about Hindus? Why is he talking about Hindus being different from the Muslims of Pakistan? Has he forgotten the millions of Indian Muslims who proudly call India their home? And if Pakistan TV channels are to be believed, Munir goes one step further to make a speech that some might say borders then on hate speech. Samaa TV quotes Munir as having said that Pakistanis, despite living abroad, are superior in both ideology and culture. What do we make of Munir's speech? Let's introduce our guests on the program today, a very distinguished panel. Senior journalist, veteran defense expert Kamar Aga Saab is with us. Kamar Saab, good to see you. Also joining me is military veteran General Raj Shukla. Good to see you, sir. And also joining me is former General Office GOC 15 Corps, General Atta Hasnain. Good to see all of you. For Indians reporting on Pakistan, it's always a dilemma. Do you give a platform to the Pakistan army chief? Do you ignore it? But this speech seemed to go much further than Pakistan's typical speeches. Something is going on. Maybe it captures the internal power tussle, the weakening of the Pakistan army, the Balochistan crisis, the desperation by the Pakistan army chief to perhaps change the headlines both at home and abroad. Let's start by giving you a sense of what Munir said as he reinforced the two-nation theory and spoke about how Pakistan's Muslims are different in every aspect from the Hindus of India. Like I said, he seemed to forget that India is also home to millions of Muslims. Take a look.
अपने बच्चों को जो है आपने जरूर सुनानी है ताकि वो पाकिस्तान की कहानी ना भूलें. Well, our forefathers they thought that we are different from the Hindus in every possible aspect of life. Our religion is different, our customs are different, our traditions are different, our thoughts are different, our ambitions are different. That was the foundation of the two-nation theory that was laid there. That we are two nations, we are not one nation. So because of that, our forefathers, they struggled, mounted that incessant struggle to create this country. Our forefathers, they have sacrificed immensely, and we have sacrificed a lot for the creation of this country, and we know how to defend it. My dear brothers and sisters and sons and daughters, please don't forget this story.
All right. So, though the target audience was Pakistanis living abroad, the entire Pakistani political establishment was in the hall when the speech was being made. General Hasnain, I see this kind of smile on the faces of you and General Shukla, ki bahut dekha hai, bahut suna hai. That is actually what the smile seems to suggest. And yet, something is going on here because Pakistan's two-nation theory doesn't work because of the way they have treated Shias, the way they have treated Ahmadis, the way they have treated the Muslims of Balochistan. But B, to make this comment about how हमारे लोग हिंदुओं से फर्क हैं, it is also an attempt to, it won't work, but it's an attempt to try and say something perhaps to the Muslims of India. What's going on here?
Oh, that's addressed to me. Thank you. Thanks, Barkha. Let me initiate. You saw that, not a very faint smile. It was a fairly, obvious smile which was there on my face and the face of General Shukla. Obviously, we were just comparing it in our minds, perhaps. Would you expect anyone from the Indian Army ever to make a speech like this? About whatever may happen in Pakistan, etc. Would you ever expect an army officer in India to speak like this on religion? I mean, the Pakistan army chief, he's the pitch absolutely when you look at this. And you started off your entire thing by saying that should we give them a platform to actually project this into the rest of India? I said, well, let's not give them a platform, but we must issue clarifications and analyze this adequately to send home the right message within our country. You see, your basic question, what is happening in Pakistan? Why is this kind of a thing happening at this time? Why is he coming up with this particular speech at this particular juncture? Obviously, Pakistan's status as a failing state is continuing to become more and more marked. It's just going downhill every other day. With what has happened in Balochistan, with what's happened with the Baloch Liberation Army, you've seen it is going even further. We've seen what is happening from the Afghan side on the Durand line, what's happening with Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, what's happening with the Pakistani economy. Anyone living in Pakistan will be in despair at what the hell is happening in this country. No, obviously the attempt by General Munir is to try and bring up the morale and motivation, and the only way that in Pakistan that they seem to be able to think of doing it is through faith. Now, besides this explanation, I also say look at what is happening in Bangladesh, and I draw this connection there because there's too much of linkage at the moment of what is happening in Pakistan with what is happening in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, the streets are in similar state at the moment, and you are finding a visit of the foreign secretary also taking place there, and you are attempting to see the linkages that Pakistan ISI is being able to establish on the other side in Bangladesh. Obviously, this is to raise the temperatures in the subcontinent. As a part of a gray zone, as we call it, as overall gray zone, the Pakistan military establishment thinks that since they don't have the superiority in arms, ammunition, manpower, training capabilities, motivation, and morale, that they can get the better of us through this. This is a weapon they feel which they can target India with. And they feel 200 million Muslims here. Appeal to them. Make them feel that living in India is not Islamic enough. You are addressing people like me. You are addressing people like Kamar Saab out here. I can tell you, we can swear on anything. We are the ones who are the actual followers of Islam in its true sense, if you really look at it. And we can give a lot of lessons to General Munir and his entire cohorts along with him. I'll rest my case here and we'll talk this out as we go along.
All right, let me bring in General Shukla. I think as General Hasnain said, it wasn't a smirk, it wasn't amusement, it wasn't bemusement. It was just, sometimes things are so outrageous that it's not even clear what the appropriate response should be. And this has to count as among the more inflammatory, vitriolic hate rants by Asim Munir. Clearly, as General Hasnain says, that there are geopolitical dimensions, there are internal politics at play here. But if you were to read between the lines from applying your strategic mind, a cool strategic mind, not an angry, irate Indian mind, what do you see? I mean, you can be both, of course, but if you had to wear your strategic hat.
While, Barkha agreeing with everything that General Hasnain just said, let me just give a different take. So, I was smiling because I was bemused. I was bemused because General Asim Munir has been a very dour and drab speaker. For a change, his speech making was animated. तो जो बोलने का लहजा था उसमें बड़ी बेहतरी आई. But the substance has plunged, and for two reasons. Firstly, when he makes that very, I would say, less than wise, dishonest speech, look at the rabble rousing those overseas Pakistanis clap. It reflects on their IQ because General Munir is not making the right points at all. In substance, he's not only been dishonest, he's been less than wise. Let me point out for what reason. If at all the Pakistani state needs a correction, it is just in one dimension, that is to reset the civil-military relationship. The day the Pakistani military realizes that it should stop meddling in politics, and you know what General Hasnain said, he should take a lecture of all his officers and tell them what the core principles of CMR are, which is a civilian has a right to be wrong, the political principle. The civilian is right even when he's wrong. If that is the central premise of mature democracies, the Pakistani military will develop the wisdom of not meddling in politics. And that is the actual malaise, which hits the Pakistani military. And let me say, when you contrast it with India in substance, if you have to see what the secular fabric is, let's give a tour to General Asim Munir of all our battalions and regiments. I, as a Hindu Brahmin, get commissioned into a Sikh regiment. I practice the Sikh faith, adopt its Gurudwara, and in a very secular frame, keep all adversaries out. I mean, there's a lovely book which General Dua released yesterday of Nab Sudar Chunni Lal. See how the buddies are Hindu-Muslim. And in combat, they grapple so successfully with the adversary. So the secular fabric, if you have actually to see, in India is a good example. And just two more quick points. Let me quote Sushant Sareen. He made a very good point on Twitter some weeks back. He says, India uses the wisdom of its politics to grapple with its insurgencies and other forms of unrest. How wise. So the military brings the violence levels down, then you apply the political balm and endorse it through an electoral process, which has been done in Kashmir, in JK. Pakistan uses its military to set right its adrift politics. We just look at the contrasting wisdoms. So this is the point. And if at all the Islamic world has to embrace a modernizing strategic discourse, which seems to be the core element of General Asim Munir's speech, let him see what is happening in Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi. I was there recently. There's a conscious attempt to distance the Islamic discourse from Islamic fundamentalism. They are talking of non-oil growth, pioneering renewables, emerging technologies, how Saudi Arabia will power the world's AI revolution. This is how the discourse should modernize. That is the wisdom one expects from a chief, and certainly not the kind of stuff which I will reiterate was less than wise and dishonest. The day the Pakistan army chief makes this honest speech that the military will not meddle in politics for the reasons, very wise reasons, you just see how the substance of the Pakistani state will change. So bemusement for his, shall I say, less than wise speech, and despair at the nonsense that he spoke.
Despair at the nonsense that he spoke is quite right. But then equally, both of you as military veterans have learned that India must always be alert, right? And I think that's something to talk about. What's going on here? Sorry, you wanted to comment before I go to Kamar Sahab? Yeah, General Shukla.
This alert piece, I will just endorse what General Hasnain said. And where India needs to be conscious of is that there is a new national security reality developing in Bangladesh, where there is a strategic design of China, Pakistan, US, this Lal Munir Ghat Air Base, Muhammad Yunus talking of those landlockedness of the states, USI chief traveling, this larger strategic design, Pakistan is making the same mistakes of the past. And this is where we must be vigilant about. A new national security reality developing around Bangladesh and to our east.
Yeah, I think those are very important points, and we'll come to the geopolitical dimensions. But Kamar Saab, what do you think is going on here? You see, Asim Munir has been on the back foot. I agree that there are certain geopolitical advantages, like the reconnection of Bangladesh and Pakistan's militaries, our own tensions with Dhaka between India and Bangladesh, and of course the big China factor. And then Trump has thrown the world into extreme instability. But us sabko dekhte hue, this particular speech, Munir isn't just speaking about Kashmir. He isn't only speaking about, the same tired old jugular vein he is getting into Hindus of India being different from the Muslims of Pakistan. He is pretending that there are not millions and millions of Muslims in India. He is, he is, even though I could not find that statement in the clip we played, according to the Pakistani TV channels, he has used the phrase superior in ideology and culture, which actually makes it a hate speech. If he has actually said that, it actually becomes a hate speech against another community. How do you see it, Kamar Saab?
There are a number of things. The most important thing is that the very concept of Pakistan has failed. It's not only the state, the two-state, the Muslims are a separate nation. That is completely failed. And the problem is, the people of Pakistan has come to realize this. Pakistan is breaking, Pakistan is disintegrating. In fact, this theory was first failed when Bangladesh was separated from rest of the Pakistan, the second partition. Then now the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and then this Balochistan, is out of control. Army is virtually unable to control that these two regions, and the movement is very popular and they have big support among the people. Second thing, the most important thing, that religion is not the basis of a state. Ethnic identity is much stronger than the religious identity. That is the problem Pakistan is facing at that. I mean, right from the beginning, first Bangladesh and now the Baloch ethnic community or Pathans, they are revolting against, They tried to cement them or trying to bring them together in the fold of Islam by promoting Islamic militancy, by promoting religious extremism, but that is not working at the moment, because the present government, it is a very small support base among the Pakistanis. That is why General Munir has to come. And Pakistani, one more thing, Barkha, treat itself as a guardian of Islamic Republic. They think, the Pakistan is sinking. And the problem is, they cannot impose martial law. So therefore, they have to keep Sharif in the power, and in the backside, remains the most powerful institution, as he said, So therefore, he's deliberately brought this whole debate once again. He's trying to tell people, look, we are different. We are not Hindus. We are Muslims. Muslims doesn't believe in basically democracy, rule of law. We believe in Islam. We believe in strong government. The other problem which Pakistan is facing at the moment, Pakistan army and the government use support from the religious establishment, that is Jamaat-e-Islami and Deoband, these two most powerful institutions there. They have also lost support among the people. They have also lost support among the people. That is a problem. So Islam is not working. So he's trying to push Islamic ideology, Islamic thinking among the people, which is not going to work there.
आपने एक बहुत जरूरी बात कही about ethnic identity actually prevailing over religious identity, and and that is evident, for example, in Balochistan, right, where even mainstream Pakistani Baloch leaders, like the former chief minister of Balochistan, have come on this platform and said that Pakistan is no longer in control of multiple districts in Balochistan. So ये जो idea of Pakistan है, ये ही collapse हो गया है. Let's play out what the MEA has said in response to this speech before we come back to all of you. Take a look.
My question first, Siddharth, regarding your question on the comments. See, how can anything foreign be there in a jugular vein? It is, this is a union territory of India. Its only relationship with Pakistan is the vacation of illegally occupied territories by the country. So this is my response to.
So the only relation that Jammu and Kashmir has to Pakistan is that it is in context of POK. Otherwise, it is a union territory, perhaps soon a full state of India. Now let's open this up. General Hasnain, Kamar Saab's idea or argument that today the idea of Pakistan, not only the state of Pakistan, but the idea of Pakistan has collapsed, and the people of Pakistan can see that. and that ethnic identity is often stronger, as we see in Balochistan, than the mere sort of fact of religious identity. Then, of course, there's what's happened with the Shias, what's happening with the Ahmadis, right? I'm not even getting into other religious minorities. Now, what does this mean for India? It's been an old debate, a Pakistan in turmoil, a Pakistan unstable. Is that good or bad for India's interests? General Hasnain and you, General Shukla and you have both made the point of Bangladesh, the new situation in Bangladesh, Bangladesh moving closer to the Pakistani military establishment, the China factor. How much should this speech, what is Munir saying about his designs here, if he's saying anything?
See, Barkha, I'm reminded of the year 1977. Why 1977? That's the year when Ziaul Haq came to power, overthrowing Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. 6 years after the 71 war. The Pakistani military establishment realized that they can never get back Bangladesh again or East Pakistan again. But retribution would be necessary, and movements such as Bangladesh should not get repeated inside Pakistan once again. And therefore, this reiteration of the religious identity started taking a higher kind of a plane. And that is the time, if you remember, the beginning of radicalization, fundamentalization of the Pakistani state, of the armed forces, etc., everywhere, the empowerment of the Maulvis, everything became more and more religious, because Pakistan felt that the security of Pakistan was contingent entirely upon the religious nature of it. Yeah. While making these utterances towards India, obviously, in one angle that we have to look at is geopolitically, this is a dangerous thing, because this we can see a repeat of what happened in 1977 coming back again here. Now that you have seen that Pakistan has actually revolted. The people of Pakistan have actually gone against radicalization to a very great extent, but it's not translated into state governance. In the state continues to believe that faith can still be used as a religion. Religion can be weaponized against its enemies wherever it wishes to do this.
Yeah.
But that is the dangerous part that we got to be extremely careful about. But having said that, the aspect that we need to also keep in mind is a fact, we need not get too worried about this. I think India is far too strong. We are emerging much stronger. There may be aberrations here and there in a country of this size, 1.4 billion people, 36 states and union territories. You are obviously going to have aberrations all along. You got a huge segment of minorities. No one is going to see eye to eye with everything. But despite that, we are continuing with our 6.5% growth. We are continuing to emerge stronger in the world polity. So this is not gelling with Pakistan. It is really hitting them. They're hitting their psyche in a very great way. And this is the attempt being made to try and send home a message to the Indian Muslims in their own strident kind of a way. What they forget is, when they talk about the two-nation theory, what you forget is religion is different, absolutely. No one ever even questions that fact. Obviously, Hinduism and Islam are two different faiths. But culture, we have a South Asian culture. Look at the Ganga Jamna Tehzeeb of the entire today. Maybe some people don't like the terminology, but you can't wish it away, the fact of composite culture. I come from a regiment which is pure Hindu. Just like what just now General Shukla just spoke about, that he comes from a Sikh regiment, artillery Sikh regiment. I come from a pure Hindu regiment, right? With my troops, the only Nara I know is Jai Badri Vishal, which is extolling the virtues of Lord Vishnu. That is what it's all about. You think I'm going to sort of take a step back when my men are going to speak that? The faith of in our case, the armed forces, of course, are a very different set of people. But the nation as such, the entire nation actually projects a completely different culture than what Pakistan actually has within itself. And lots of Pakistanis secretly, if you speak to them alone, you speak to them on the sidelines, all of them appreciate what India is and what India has achieved. This is the message we should be going home clearly to them.
I think this point about the Indian army itself being the epitome of secularism, where, as General Hassan, General Shukla, both of you have said, you have the Mandir Masjid Gurdwara traditions, you have the Sarv Dharm Sthal traditions, you have the commanding officer of a unit, Hindu or Muslim, leading an arti or leading namaz prayers. This is par for the course. It's not even some unusual thing. But General Shukra, how concerned would you be at Asim Munir, whom you say typically drab, quite low key, suddenly finds his rhetoric, but as you said, you despair at his nonsense. Would you be concerned from an India's national security prism when you hear this speech?
No, not at all. And I'll tell you why. Because, see, if this, let's take this superior civilization theory. So the superior civilization or the superior idea of Pakistan, let's look at its delivery in terms of comprehensive national power, GDP. GDP is less than the Bombay Stock Exchange. Look at the projects, say India has delivered on DPI, future technologies. This is what an army chief should have been speaking of. Even cricket. Cricket may be kya haal hai unka. So the larger, look at absence of statecraft along their western borders. When the Taliban came in, they made these 3-4 conditions to them: recognizing Durand Line, ending TTP, and ejecting the Indians out of it. Precisely the opposite has happened with a government that was favorable to them. Look at the mess with Balochistan. He says it is a matter of 1,500 terrorists. Balochistan is a province larger than your KKP, Punjab, Sindh put together. Somebody said कि बलूचिस्तान की जो कहानी है वो सदियों पुरानी है. पाकिस्तान की कहानी 1947 में शुरू हुई है. Now, when the army chief's speech does not reflect these larger issues, I, as a divisional commander, was told by one of my bosses that this is insurgency is armed politics. That, of course, violence is important, but you have to get the politics right. The larger issue, I saw none of that in his speech, as if it is just 1,500 terrorists. So, Balochistan, absence of statecraft on your western borders. And see, what worries me, Barkha, is this, and I'm now, what shall I say, advocating from the Pakistani viewpoint. If this is what they do, we will not need to take POK. It will roll over. Messing it up badly. So, on a very serious manner, in the Pakistan as it currently stands is just a pest. It should be ignored. And we should look at the threats and challenges which are larger. So this is my honest opinion about Pakistan at this point of time, unless some wisdom dawns. One small point, on this whole business. See, Pakistani army's officers are told that you are the guardians of the ideological frontiers. This is the mistake that they make. They should be told that focus on mission readiness, on lethality, on the warrior ethos. तो जब उनको ये बताया जाता है वो इस वहम में अपनी जिंदगी बर्बाद कर देते हैं. And in the process, they ruin Pakistan's politics.
Yeah.
I feel a sense of pity for Pakistan, in the for the current state that it is in. It could have done far better.
Yeah, I think certainly one should feel pity for the people of Pakistan, who, as General Shukla said, have often taken on the radicalism enforced on them. And, from the Zia years to now, we have seen pushback from large sections of Pakistan civil society. And certainly they deserve better. Kamar Saab, but as General Shukla said, Pakistan is the pest, it is to be ignored. I think a lot of India's foreign policy has moved away from the idea that India and Pakistan could institutionalize any lasting peace. Pakistan's use of terrorism as a proxy in Jammu and Kashmir and even other parts of India remains the obstacle. But given the new geopolitical realities, what would you urge India to be alert about right now?
You see, we have seen whenever there is an internal crisis in Pakistan, they generally build up at the border. They build a force in the border, try to create more trouble in Kashmir or maybe some other part of the country. This is happening, and promote militancy, promote Islamic, like his speech, which he has given yesterday. So this sort of rhetoric, they build up. But the problem is now, this rhetoric is not helping Pakistan because the process of Talibanization itself has failed, which was introduced by Ziaul Haq, and now we have seen what is happening in Afghanistan. There's a general feeling among the Muslims, that Islamic militancy has created more problem for the Muslims than for anybody else. See what they have done in Jammu and Kashmir or Iraq or Afghanistan or many other places. the ISIS has failed in Afghanistan. So general people are thinking, moving away from these ideologies of Jamaat, Deoband, Wahhabi, or these Salafi ideas. The peak is over. So second thing, the Pakistani army, now trying to revive the whole thing once again, will that work? I don't think that will work. So therefore, the next step would be to build up at the border. And they have done it in the past also. But this time they may, they are not very sure, because Indian army, as General Hasnan, as General Shukla has mentioned, is very strong, very well equipped, less with the most sophisticated weapon systems. They will have tough time, So
Yeah.
therefore, I don't know what they are going to do. Second thing, which is very important, the Balochistan problem, or whatever they do, what is happening in Balochistan or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, both the states never wanted to be part of Pakistan.
Yeah.
They were happy with the earlier arrangement, or they wanted to be part of India. Basha Khan was there in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which we used to call Northwest Frontier Province, and Nawab of Kelat and others, in Balochistan, they never wanted to be part of Pakistan. They in fact worried, and Afghanistan also was worried about Pakistan's emergence, because they see that in the name of Islam, they would come to Afghanistan. And this is what exactly happened, General feeling in these areas, including Sindh, that Pakistan was created by the Punjabis, Muslim Vaderas, and they have colonized rest of the state, that is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, and other. That feeling, they try to bridge up with this promoting Islamic militancy that helped for some time, but now once again the secular movement is emerging along with the militant groups in.
So those are very perceptive comments, and there is this kind of resentment in other provinces against the Punjabis. The Pakistan military is dominated by the Punjabis. Quick last words from the generals. Qamar Saab says, typically Pakistan has tried to escalate, ratchet up tensions at the border. This can be done in many ways. This can be done by pushing in, terrorists. This can be done by, targeted attacks. It can be done in many ways. It doesn't necessarily mean a conventional build-up. That, of course, has never stopped. There have been ups and downs. Quickly, General Shukla, General Hassan, will wrap up for us. General Hassan?
Barkha, I would go to the extent of giving the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's advice. The advice was given to Mr. Putin at one time. I would like to give that advice to General Munir. Right? If he was in front of me, I would tell him very clearly, General Saab, this is not the season for war. Okay, andar dekho apne desh mein, have a look inside. There is misery everywhere. There is misery in your nation. Look at our nation. Look at our Prime Minister. The manner in which he has got the nation together. The manner in which we are developing. Take a cue from here and stop this rants which you are carrying out in the name of faith unnecessarily. Just realize we are one people. Culturally, we are one people. You can continue trying to divide people on the basis of religion, but your own people will start questioning them very soon.
General Shukla, you said Pakistan is a pest. Pests can't always be ignored. Carrying the analogy further, and speaking, by the way, completely metaphorically. I mean, I'm not trying to personalize the language here. Go ahead, General Shukla.
So, see the point that I'm making. Forget me. General Bajwa for a while saw reason and asked the Pakistan army to concentrate on geoeconomics from the Pakistan standpoint. General Jahangir Karamat has offered similar advice in recent times. Hussain Haqqani, so many others. See, the issue is what? Pakistan is on a fissiparous boil. And all these unrest can only be settled through political capital. And look at the sheer irony. Your most popular man, I'm no fan of his, Imran Khan, the guy who has popularity, you don't give him legitimacy. Through your nefarious designs, you try and put him out of the power system. The only thing that can set right Pakistan's basic problems is when you let politics flow. And if politics flows, then the other instruments will gain what shall I say, salience. And if that happens, then Pakistan may become a credible threat. But because of its own doing, they are reducing themselves to the status of a pest. I'm not saying that in the larger, see, so what have they started doing now? Fishing for trouble in Bangladesh with the Chinese. So we have to be wary about all this. But in terms of, a military assessment, we have other challenges, and I've been very vociferous on those. Pakistan, in that sense, is not a challenge at its current state. It's a pest.
Pakistan is not a challenge, it's a pest, but it's an irritant nevertheless. And it is to be seen, I would argue, in juxtaposition with the other geopolitical changes that all three of you have captured so perceptively: what's going on within Bangladesh, what China is aiming for, an uncertain world order with the changes that Donald Trump is bringing in. So it's not a challenge by itself, but certainly one has to join the dots, as all strategic minds often do. For now, India has slammed the Pakistan army chief for his comments. And I think the perceptive comment made here by all three gentlemen: let politics flow. Let the people of Pakistan at least find their own voice. We leave it there, gentlemen. General Shukla, General Hasnain, Kamar Aga Saab, thank you. And to our audience, thank you so much, and see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo's Story and support independent, robust journalism.